Hello there, streakers. How are you today? Hopefully fantastic. Jamie and I are looking forward to having a conversation about streaking. We've been on vacation of late and have been keeping our streaks alive. Plus, Jamie has a few questions for me because we've had a huge amount of individuals join the streaking app as well as the streaking podcast and other things. So she's got some questions for me that I'm going to answer, and I'm probably going to ask her some questions too, which I know she always loves because she loves being put on the spot. But that's what we're going to cover off on today. So let's start streaking. What is streaking and why should you do it?
Streaking is how you set up personal winning streaks. Look at who you want to be and what you need to do to become that person. This is streaking.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jamie.
And we are streakers. Through 30 years of marriage and 7 children, we have learned the power of consecutive consistency or streaking.
To start streaking is simple. You just follow these 3 laws. Make it laughably simple, keep a record, and join the streaking community.
Streaking is your hidden superpower. With it, you will consistently progress and grow in whatever area of life you want.
In this podcast, Jeff and I will share all the fun, exciting, serious, solemn, wonderful parts of family, spiritual, professional, and personal life, and how streaking powers it all.
So join us in the conversation, join the movement, and start streaking today. Last week was vacation.
Oh, yes.
Wasn't it wonderful?
It was wonderful. I love vacation. Okay, funny little thing. This actually made me feel better. So we were in Island Park in Idaho. At a cabin.
If you've never been there, it's a beautiful little place just outside of
gorgeous.
Yellowstone. West Yellowstone, Montana is where you get into the park, but Island Park is just a little bit down from there.
And Island Park is Idaho, right?
Right.
West Yellowstone is Montana, the city. And then as you go into Yellowstone, you're in Wyoming. So within one day, we would visit 3 states just within an hour.
Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. And
it
then
was
back again.
Gorgeous. We did one Yellowstone trip where we were driving and literally was it a black bear?
It was a grizzly.
A grizzly, that's right. Ran right in front of our Pearl, which is our big van.
Yeah.
Literally right in front of us.
It was, if I wouldn't have been quick on the brakes,
you would have hit the bear.
I would have hit the bear. I talked a little bit about that with Danny because we were actually in the...
So that's right.
Yeah.
So I was going to say one thing that kind of made the vacation for me was we were going down the river. We were floating the river one day.
And by the way, floating the river is like the deepest part of the river, I think, went up to my waist.
Yes. And Maybe. It was just so mellow. It was totally my kind of...
Your kind of river.
Thing to do, yes. So we were floating the river, but we ended up getting pulled over. You didn't know that could happen on the river, but did you tell this story too?
I don't know if we did or not. But
so we get pulled over on the river, and because we didn't have enough life jackets in the boat, and because Idaho state law requires that you have anyone 14 and under be in a life jacket.
Be in a life jacket.
And we didn't. So anyway, there's our 2 families.
It's so fun to be pulled over on the river because here's the thing that we were trying to do. We were trying to float casually by. We had seen that.
Look casual, so they don't notice that we don't have enough life jackets in our boat.
I mean, we had seen that there was going to be, that these 2 individuals, and they looked like park rangers at first because they saw a moose.
Yeah, so I thought they were letting people know to not get too close to the moose, or because earlier in the day there had been park rangers because of all the bears. So I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, they're out letting people know, hey, be careful of the moose. It's not like Disney where every moose comes up and you can pet them. But that's not what it was.
That's not what it was.
Genuinely got pulled over.
So we saw that they pulled someone else over. And so we were trying to float by being
maybe if you
unnoticed.
don't make eye contact and you just kind of, but you can't go any faster.
No, it's not.
You just slowly.
So we all of a sudden we hear green raft.
You in the
come
green
over
raft,
to the side,
which was us. So we have our 2 families in, and the officer is writing all of the information down, and he says, okay, so it looks like you have 3 adults and how many kids? And then someone said
3 adults,
4 adults, and they had missed me and counted me as a kid.
Yes.
And I thought, there's the braces paying off.
There it is.
All of that embarrassment of having braces at 51, and I'm like, well. Maybe I can be a kid for a little while.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was so much experience. So the grizzly bear and then floating down the river, and then we did hikes. And one of the things we did that you didn't do was we went up to the top of Sawtell,
Yes.
which is a little mountain that was
A
at the
little
top,
mountain.
a little mountain.
It's a decent
But
sized
well,
mountain.
but we could drive to the top of it, and that was gorgeous because we watched the sun set,
Mm-hmm.
and we found mountain goats up there that were, I don't know what they were doing, but some
Digging a hole of
digging a
some
hole or
sort.
something, trying to get for something. But that was great with the kids. But the thing that I was thinking about, and how in the world does this all relate to streaking?
Yes.
Because that's what people really want to hear, is how did we do our streaks on vacation, and did we do them? I mean, because
And
it's
a
like,
little
should we
bit.
take a vacation from all of our streaks and just, boom, cut them off and then we're there? But I've always been of the contention that the streaks that I have them in my life because I want to do them all the time,
Mm-hmm.
not just some of the time and not when I'm just at home, but all of the time, which we've talked a lot about dependencies as far as streaks are concerned. So, for example, if you have something that's tidy the kitchen at least one time every day and you don't have a kitchen, then what do you do to keep that streak alive?
Mm-hmm.
Which there's probably everywhere where you have food, which could be considered the kitchen. But the reason why you have a streak in your life, or I shouldn't say the reason, but one of the reasons why I keep the streaks in my life that I do is because I want to be that person in all aspects of life.
And all the time.
Right.
And that is, so you bring up one of the first questions I was going to ask, is that a lot of times people look at it and think, I don't want to be, I don't, I don't want to be beholden to these things that I have to do when I'm on vacation. Like that's literally the whole point of vacation, is to leave everything behind for a little while and just enjoy and live in the present.
Yeah.
So what is it about streaking that helps you, like how do you not feel beholden to it? And why would you want to keep them? And what benefits did you see from keeping them even when you were on
And you're going to answer
vacation?
this question too,
I am.
right?
Yeah.
So immediately what I go to, because there are people who, when we introduce streaking, ask this question
A lot,
specifically.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, well, I don't want to be holding to it all the time.
All the time. And understandably so. I think there's two things that people feel. The first one is, that's a pretty high bar and I don't want to be held to that standard.
Isn't that interesting? Because we've told that streaking is the low bar.
Right, the floor. Yeah, exactly. But well, that's part of the methodology of why it works. And the second thing is that people are like, well, I don't want to be stuck having to do something all the time. But then it becomes more of like a guillotine hanging over my neck rather than something that's freeing me and helping me become who I want to be. So
what I think about is this. The reason I choose the streaks that I do, and I'm very deliberate about what streaks I choose and to do and to keep alive, and deliberate in that I know that I'm going to keep them alive in every circumstance, be it vacation, home, work, play, whatever it is, I'm going to keep the streak alive. Now, the reason I don't feel like it's a guillotine hanging over my neck, very, very graphic language there, hon.
some people feel that way about stuff that you have to do all the time.
I know. The reason I don't feel that way is because my streaks are perfectly aligned with who I want to be all of the time. Therefore, I don't look at doing the activities that I've chosen to do daily, weekly, or monthly as burdens. I look at them as opportunities to learn and to grow. Now, I know that I can't devote the time, energy, and effort or the intensity. That's one of the things that you talked about, or that you talk about in your email to those who have downloaded the Streaking app. Your introductory email is, we want to do intense things because we feel that that's where we can get all of the progress, is if we're intense.
Mm-hmm.
Where in actuality, the intensity comes in keeping the streak alive. So, for example, when we were at the cabin, there were times where we were all sitting around. It was night, getting ready to go to bed, and we were doing our streaks. And some of those streaks included, for example, reviewing at least one vocabulary word, or that was for me.
For you.
Another one, write at least one sentence for a book, article, or letter. And I would do those, and it would be the one sentence. It wouldn't be anything more than that. Now, the question would then come is, well, does that make any difference? And I'll tell you right now, it's made all the difference for me in my life. Interestingly, when I've written at least that one sentence, what typically then happens is I start to have a flood of thoughts and ideas that I also jot down. And I'll put on this one sentence now 4 or 5 sentences because it relates to things that we did while we were on vacation. And I continue to be enriched by each one of these streaks. So I don't look at the streaks or what I do streaking wise as a burden. It's who I want to be. And therefore I don't look at it as, well, I don't want to be beholden to this all the time. It's more so I want to do these things, and the people who we're on vacation with, we all wanted to do all of our different streaks.
And I agree with that in every way. And
I'm so glad because we would have an interesting conversation if you didn't.
I was thinking about people who are new to streaking and that process that happens as you're new. So one of the things that's interesting about streaking is it's a shift in mindset from, again, what you talked about, this level of intensity to consistency. And part of that shift is being able to think about it every day. And when you think about it every day, the way that you think about it changes. And that's what I think has helped me the most, and why. So we're sending out as people, as we're having more people sign up to be, or downloading the app.
Mm-hmm.
We're sending out emails, and we're having each person on our team pick something that they would want to share with new streakers. So, this was a really fun meeting actually that we did, because we all feel passionately about a certain part of streaking and what it's done for us and what was really significant when we started.
Yeah.
And mine was that level of intensity. That's what I feel like has just been so helpful for me, is to let go of this feeling that everything has to be intense and everything has to be perfect in order for it to progress at the rate that I want to, in order for me to feel like I'm making progress at what I'm doing. And so streaking for me has allowed me to shift, to look at life really in a long game perspective, and a little bit less of this is something I do and more of this is who I am. And so at the beginning, when you first start streaking, your streaks are still a lot of something that you need to do. And part of that is because you're adding something new, and so you forget sometimes, or you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh, that's right. I forgot that that's a streak and I need to. And so you're doing stuff kind of just to do it because you forgot about it.
Right.
And
right.
Where we are, and what I noticed this time after streaking for a while, when I go on vacation, I start to recognize throughout the day the things that I'm doing that are accomplishing my streaks. That literally it's becoming a part of my life and who I am, not just something I do. And so one of my newer streaks, to delete or edit a picture, I started noticing how much more I was doing that on vacation and how much I loved that I'm like, oh, I took more pictures this time.
How come, just pause on that for just a second, how come you decided to do that streak of delete or edit at least one picture every day?
A whole bunch of reasons, because I end up with a whole bunch of pictures that I don't want. And also because pictures help me remember events. I'm
so
amazed.
If you delete or edit one, if you don't do that, it diminishes the opportunity for you to have those memories.
Yes. And it forces me to, I have a couple friends and my sister, Katie, who are so good at taking pictures and who go through and look at them often. I tend to take the picture and move on and don't often go back and look at it as much. And so that was part of my motivation as well, is to get me to kind of go through the pictures more often and review. And then just be better at taking pictures that look better and help me remember the events that we've done.
And the reason I ask right now and interrupt is because vacation, you're taking a lot of pictures.
Yes. Well, most people are. That's part of my frustration is that oftentimes I don't take as many pictures as I have wanted to. And so that was part of the motivation of the streak, was I want to take a few more pictures and capture these memories better and edit one. And also the process.
So the motivation of the streak, so you don't take a lot of pictures. However, you set a streak to delete or edit at least one picture.
And I've changed it a little bit. I've allowed myself that if I took a picture that day, it also counts.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
take a picture, delete
Well,
a
I guess
picture,
that would
or
be,
edit a
I
picture.
guess that would be
Editing it.
editing, snapping the photo. That's editing the moment,
Yeah,
getting in there.
and that's kind of what I. So
But you know what's interesting about that? So to new streakers is that we give ourselves a lot of grace
we do.
in regards to what the streak looks like, and what we try to and what we're striving diligently to do is develop the consecutive muscle, because that's really what delivers the results. That's what gives you the memories that you want and the pictures that you want and the things that you want to do moving forward.
And you said my streaks are aligned with who I want to be. That is a process. That's not something that just happens when you see someone else's streak, or you have this idea and you're like, I'm going to set a streak around it. The part of the process of streaking is recognizing how to tweak your streak to have it do what you want it to do.
You always come up with these great little sayings. Tweak your streak.
Tweak your streak.
Can I talk about tweaking streaking?
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of people that have a streak to write at least one sentence in their journal. You have that.
Yeah.
And I was feeling like, you know what? I need to do that. And so I started a streak to write one sentence in my journal. After about 264 days, I broke that streak and I restarted it. And then about another 70 days later, I was like, you know what? This streak isn't for me.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Were you like, I kind of hate this streak?
Yeah, I did. That was a burden.
Yes.
It was a burden because, and in fact, I chose to end it on vacation because I didn't look forward to it. It was not something that I wanted to continue to keep doing. And remember, I asked you, I said, how come you think, and you wisely said to me, well, because you write so many other ways. For example, if you really want to get to know what's been happening in my week, you can read any one of the letters that I send out to any one of our children or any one of my nieces or nephews who are serving missions. That I usually go through and talk about. I grab something from the week that then I apply in a spiritual or gospel format and send over to them.
And I love this example because if I was to set that streak,
Yeah.
that would be overwhelming to me. And I would feel like I have to write something good. I've got to. So that's a perfect example of going through that process. And it's okay. I think a huge part of streaking is recognizing, I think everyone at some point, if they stay with streaking, will have a streak that they tried because they were inspired by someone else and they're like, oh, I totally want to do that. And then they get into it and they think, I hate this. Even though they admire it in other people,
right,
and they think it's a great thing. For them, they're like, it just doesn't work for me. I hate doing this.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay. In fact, I think it's such good knowledge to understand. And that's the whole point of streaking, is to help you become the person you want to be, like the best version of yourself. And that's not always, there's going to be times you're inspired by other people's streaks and you're like, oh, I want to do that. And it's going to be life-changing and it's going to be amazing. And there's going to be other times that you're inspired by someone else's streak and you're going to do it for a while. And the great thing about a streak is you do it long enough to recognize, no, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking it's a shortcoming something short in yourself that you're like, oh, I'm just not as good at it as they are. You can be honest and be like, no, I actually just don't like it. I accomplished that same thing doing this instead. And which
is what I do with the letters.
What you do with the letters. You accomplish that same purpose.
Thing, have all the same, and it fills me in a different way because exactly. I like to have the conversation with someone, and through a letter, I'm having the conversation and sharing with them thoughts, ideas, feelings, activities that I did through the week that then I apply it to something maybe that they may be facing or going through.
Yep.
So I want to go back to the question. So we left off a little bit, the question of were there any streaks, and this relates to what you asked me, but were there any streaks that you had that you did feel that were a burden on vacation?
And you're asking me that question?
Uh-huh.
So,
because I explained mine, the journal, which I actually ended, but I kept to write at least one sentence for a book, letter, or article alive.
Right. I don't have any streaks that I felt like were a burden in the sense of, oh, I just hate doing this streak. But I did have several streaks that I did the floor, that I was like, I'm just doing this because it's important to me. but I'm not putting a lot into it today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
What
okay
if
with
you
that.
were to
So
give
for
up your...
example,
Go ahead.
one of the things, there was 1 or 2 nights that you read. So one of our streaks is to read to our boys. There was 1 or 2 nights that we read just the paragraph, and literally I think one of them was asleep on the couch and the other one was in the bathroom, and like they weren't really participating and listening. And so the question then would be, why do we do it?
Right.
If
Why
they're
do you keep
not
it
there,
alive? If they're not
why?
there, if they're not... And that's the question that I was going to ask you is, because we ask ourselves this question all the time. Why do we do it? Why do we keep doing it? I mean, why not just take the break for vacation? Why not just say, you know what? I'm going to pause the streak for vacation and then I'll pick it up when I get
I
back.
had a new thought on this
Okay, I'm
because
ready
I
for it.
know there's this, I want to keep the streak alive.
Well, Duolingo has where you can
You can pause
pay,
it.
you can pay to pause your streak,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. But we've talked about this and we disagree with the philosophy.
And why?
Yeah.
Why is it important? And I think the 2 things that I thought about was the one I'd already talked about, that it's a mindset, that you're teaching yourself to think about it, and the level of thought that goes into it is not the important thing. It's the fact that it's still being thought about on a daily basis.
Right, right.
And then as you were talking, I was thinking about the reading streak to our boys. We live in a world of a lot of things changing in life. And there is something comforting in consistency, in reliability, in knowing that in every circumstance, you're still going to do this thing. Like there is something that helps you feel like all is right in the world, even if things aren't right in the world, or the opposite. You're on vacation where you're like, oh, I'm not thinking. There's still something about having that level of consistency and that level of reliability that makes you feel like everything's okay in the world. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
And I thought about that with the reading streak, and for me, my journal streak is part of that for me. It's a grounding thing that helps me feel like everything is okay in the world, because I'm still, at least everything could be different, but I'm still doing this the same in
You can make
every
it through.
circumstance. And I hadn't thought about that before, but I do think that in a world where there's a lot of change and sometimes upheaval and different things that, with the politics and the different debates and the pandemic, this feeling that, okay, in every situation, this can be relied upon. And what is this? It's my willingness to do this thing.
Mm-hmm. To do one activity and several activities consistently every day, week, or month.
And I loved that we're going to do a podcast in the future as soon as we get through the academic writing of this. But there is a study on activity streaks, which is what we
Which is what we are. Yeah, which is what streaking is all about, is how to set up successful winning activity streaks.
And the study was done for marketers, for marketing, because there are so many apps that are starting to include keeping a streak as part of their marketing aspect for the app. And so this study was done to say, is there a benefit to this? Does it actually make a difference? And the answer is yes, it totally makes a difference. And they're saying this is a huge opportunity for marketing, which we're like, well, before we market it, there's a huge opportunity for improvement.
For just life improvement. And I think that is, we've talked a lot in the past and continue to talk a lot in the past about the different tools that you have for self-improvement. Goals, streaks, habits, routines often get in there as well. And if you study every single one of those tools and how to use them, you'll find that every single one relies on a streak in one form or another. In other words, a goal, you have to do activity on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis in order to achieve the goal. If you want to start a habit, or in other words, get to a place where you're automatic in a particular behavior, you got to do a streak. Because without consecutive consistency, nothing will become automatic. If I don't practice when I'm learning how to type every single day to where it becomes muscle memory, then it won't become a habit.
Right.
And therefore, everything that you look at in your life that you want to accomplish, if you set a goal, what are the streaks necessary to stand on to get that goal? If you look at something you want to be automatic, what is the streak necessary in order to make that thing automatic? And that's why I look at the paper, and I've only read the summary of it so far. We've got to do a
We've
little bit
got
more
some
research on it.
deep dive to do.
But what I see is that we now have a tool by which we can become who we want to be, which is, again, back to the question of why do your streaks on vacation? And I wanted to point something else out that you said. When I think about streaking, I streak all day. It's not just at the end of the day. It's not at the beginning of the day. I'm thinking about the activities I want to accomplish all day. I recently started a new streak, which on the streaking app, I'm chronicling it every single day. And that new streak is to search for one inspiration person, place, or thing. It's a noun, I know, but I had to identify those out.
I want to find an inspirational noun.
And that sounded really odd. So I figured person, place, or thing. Let me give you exactly what it is. Search for at least one inspiring person, place, or thing every day. And as I've been doing that, and today is day 3. And as I've been doing this, the mindfulness of that, I wake up thinking, okay, what is the inspirational or inspiring thing I'm going to look for today? And just keep aware of it.
How long do you feel like it took you to get to that place that you were thinking about your streaks throughout the day versus...
I think that's a good question, because as I go back and think of our streaking journey, the one that you and I have been on,
it's not that way at the beginning.
No.
And so I don't want new streakers, or even it can take a while. It can take a long while to get to this place where you're thinking about it throughout the day.
Well,
but I think that's part of the purpose of a streak, is to get me to that place, because nothing else is doing it. Nothing else is getting me to consistently change that mindset and think.
And I think that's so what you just bring up is what I thought about, is the confidence that the tool works. Mm-hmm. And I think the very first streak that you set is putting a marker out there that says, I am going to trust that if I do this tool the way that it says, then I'll get what I need to get. In other words, the confidence also that I'll do it.
Yeah.
I mean, because that was the other thing. It was 300 days before we really started before I started my next streak. Mm-hmm. 300 days. That's
a whole year almost.
I know.
Of doing just one.
Right. 2 months shy of a year of doing just one streak before I was like, you know what? I think I can apply a couple other streaks to this. And then I did those 2 additional streaks for another 150, 160 days before I started a 4th.
Yeah.
And that's because in our minds and in our hearts, I don't think we believe that we can do it.
And that's why I talk so much about intensity and perfection.
Yeah.
And how I had to let go of that feeling in order to embrace consistency. That if I embraced consistency, that I would reach that level of intensity that I was looking for. But it's more of it's over time rather than right now. And when I first started streaking, I asked myself the question a lot, because this was something I was struggling with, is why was I okay to do nothing today in the hope that I would do something tomorrow? Because there were a lot of times that when we first started, or people that I would talk to that broke their streak because, well, I wasn't doing very much.
Yeah.
And I would say, okay, so you had that streak for 50 days, but you didn't feel like it was doing enough for you, so you broke it. So how much have you done since you broke the streak? And like 4 or 5 times I would talk to people and they'd be like, oh, I haven't done anything.
I haven't done anything.
And I thought, and I'd had a similar experience. And so I've asked myself that question so much, is why do we feel better about breaking the streak and doing nothing than we did about doing something laughably simple? Why is that? Why is that okay?
Okay, so I have a user that joined the streaking app just recently. And this particular user says this. in their public profile. Hello. Hope you guys are all okay. To put it simply, I'm a person who is seeking to improve themselves to get the dream life they always wanted. I don't really have the ability nor the confidence to straight away implement these things into my life, and thought an app like this would help me. Now, interestingly,
Confidence.
look at how many streaks they have. This individual.
A lot.
Yeah. And they're all at 0 right now. And this is one of the areas where I believe, as a streaking person, you can get really motivated because it's like, oh, I can keep laughably simple streaks alive for the many days. And so then you set a whole bunch of them.
Yep.
And when you set a whole bunch of streaks, when you first start streaking, that is the same problem of intensity
Yep.
that you have with just doing one streak at a very
Super
high level.
Yep.
You've really got to pare it down and to say, of all of the streaks, of all the activities that I can do in my life, what is the one right now that I want to put emphasis on and make laughably simple so that I do it? Because that's the key.
Yep.
And I don't know how to communicate that to get it through to people, because I mean, this is all, you look at this and this is
exactly what it is that I want to become the person I want to be. And these are all the things I have to change to do that. And my list is, I've pared it down, but there's still 25.
Exactly.
Because if I change all of these things, then I will finally be that person. And so you set 25 streaks, or you set 15, and you do them for a day or two, maybe even 5 days, maybe a week, maybe you get through a week. But I guarantee you, if you start off that way, you're gonna lose them, because exactly what, and this is why you say this so often, is that you are literally building a consecutive muscle. You are working a muscle that you haven't worked before, and it's gonna take time, and it's gonna take patience, but it works. It really does work. And that's the thing so I look at this and I think, why is it okay to let go of those things? Why is it easier to say, I'm not going to do anything today in the hope that I'll be amazing tomorrow? Because we want to be amazing. And the belief that tomorrow may be that day when we just are amazing is more attractive and more luring than being laughably simple today.
Yeah. And I would say, so to your point,
I had to overcome that.
You can be amazing, just not in one day. You can do all the things that you've ever wanted to accomplish in life. However, it's not in one day. And it's not in 1 year. It's not in 2 years. It's over your
time.
lifetime. And what you'll find, for example, so for this particular user, I would say pick one of these, 10 or 12 things and say activities, and say, which one is going to get me what I need to get right now, which is building my consecutive muscle. And then once you've kept that alive for 100, 150 days, then look at the second streak.
Yes.
And maybe a third, but not any more than that until you get your consecutive muscle going.
Because I promise you're going to learn things about yourself in that 100 days, about what you need to do to keep it alive. And you're going to gain confidence.
Right.
With the one. Because that's the other thing that happens, is that you think, oh, I'll set 15, and you're confident at first, but then when you lose all 15, you not only do you lose all that confidence, but I think you go even further back of thinking like, well, just another thing that didn't work.
Yeah. And that's what I worry about with this individual, is everything is at 0 right now. And so they've lost their motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And why did I lose my motivation? Because it wasn't that the streak was, the activity itself was hard. It was the number of activities that you set all at once that now became impossible to do because of the intensity of doing all of those at once.
Those things at once.
It's just that you're just not ready for it.
No. There's a whole learning curve, a process that has to go through with it.
It's often what we say, as we get very motivated about streaking and wanting people to go out there and streak. What?
Yes, we do. I'm just like, yeah, we do.
We do. And sometimes it's frustrating for us because it takes a while for it to take. For streaking to take. And we think, well, why doesn't everyone just grab onto this and do it right now? Is because that's not how it works. Mm-hmm. It works one streak at a time, one streaker at a time, deciding deliberately to do one activity for as many days in a row as you can, laughably simple, and then share your progress. It's it's really that simple, but that hard.
Yes. And interesting, what is the hard part about it? So I had a streak that that I was able to do it for a long period of time. And in that period of time, I did more than what I would have done in the past, where I would ignore it, ignore it, ignore it until the guilt became so much that I would finally make the time and I would spend 2 hours doing that thing. And I'd be like, okay, I did it. But it was interesting for me when I went through that experience. And I think I've talked about this before, that the level of dopamine hits or the feeling of satisfaction I got from doing that 2 hours was more significant than what I got each day for the Laughably Simple, even though they each day accomplished more. Like I actually had more and better results. But that porpoising of, I feel guilty, oh, I'm not doing this, I need to do it, I got to get this done, and then finally getting yourself to do it and having that, level of intensity that you've wanted to get to, then when you do it, you feel great in that moment. And then you go back to another days, weeks, months, sometimes years before you get back to doing that thing again. And that's what's interesting.
Oh, how many times have I repeated that cycle?
And
in the past, before streaking.
And so it takes time to appreciate and allow yourself to feel the joy of prolonged streaking, of laughably simple things being added up over time, to be able to go back and look at kind of a beautiful picture of your life where you're like, wow, I've really accomplished. But you can't pinpoint one particular moment per se when you were just like, that was amazing. It's a whole combination of small things built up to be like, wow, that's actually pretty amazing.
When we first had the idea for the app, when you were pushing really hard on it, I'd mocked up a couple of different designs. One of the designs that I'd mocked up was to have, as you completed a streak, a picture built that you chose, a picture of your choosing, whatever it was. And I remember one because our daughter, Lily, ballerina, was working to be a professional dancer at the time. And I thought, it'd be really cool if she had a streak that was to, and she had this for a while, stretch at least one time daily, that she uploaded a picture of herself as a ballerina, and as she completed her streak every single day, it would build this picture. I thought
that would be really cool.
Yeah,
if you could build a picture
of what you
doing,
because that's the thing happening. Who I want to be. This is who I want to be. We have a user on right now, and we got to give him a shout out at Nick C. He wants to be an astronaut, and he shares with us every day one cool fact about outer space. He talks about the streaks that he has in order to become an astronaut. It's really quite phenomenal to watch this little journey. And what he's doing is every single day adding one little dot to that picture of becoming an astronaut.
Which is really amazing.
It really is. It is so fun to watch. And there's so many other individuals that are on here that are sharing with us their streaks and what it is they're doing to become who they want to be.
So I guess if I were to sum up this podcast, which is streaking while you're on vacation and beginning streaking, is to believe that the process works. Believe that it makes a difference in your life, that you truly are going to be doing the things that make you become the person that you want to be. But that the whole thing is a process in patience, that it takes time to build that muscle and to keep with it.
Yeah, it really does. Streakers, we've enjoyed talking with you today. If you'd like to download the Streaking app, we invite you to do so. In there, you will find all kinds of inspirational posts and stories of individuals who have set streaks and are striving diligently every day to become who they want to be. Downloading the Streaking app, you will also get all kinds of suggestions on what streaks you could start with. And what we've done is we've curated those streaks from the years that we've been at this and put them into different categories or folders of streaks so that you can choose from those, or you can create your own. Also, in the social media feed, you'll just see the people who post and share with us their journey on doing laughably small things every day to become who they want to be. You can follow Jami or I on the Streaking app. I'm at Jeffrey Downs or at Jami Downs. I think that's your user.
Yep.
Also, if you'd like to ask us any questions at all, feel free to write us directly at Jeffrey, Jeffery, at thestreakingapp.com or
Jami, Jami, at thestreakingapp.com.
And feel free to get the book. It's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or anywhere books are sold. What was the other thing I was going to say? There was one other thing, and I forgot. Oh, join our Streak of the Month, which this month, the Streak of the Month is to strengthen at least one family relationship, or it's around connecting with family in July.
That's right, because we're in July.
Yeah, we're in July.
No, it's not.
It is. We're in July. But join the Streak of the Month. You can find that also in the community page on the Streaking app. Well, until we talk again,
keep streaking.